Alrighty, we're continuing on in genetics. So far we've just gone over what's called simple, dominant, and recessive. So say like brown eyes is dominant, blue eyes is recessive. If you have one brown-eyed allele, you're going to have brown eyes. Well, now we got three different types of inheritance that we're going to go over today. One's called codominance, one's called incomplete dominance, and then there's also multiple allelic traits. All right, so here's an example of codominance right here. All right, we got a red cow, more brown than red, but they say red. He's got two red alleles, and we're gonna cross that with a pure white cow with two white alleles. Now these are codominant, so they're both dominant. So when you cross an RR with a WW, all the offspring have a red allele and a white allele, and they're gonna have patches of both white and red hair on their body. So they have red and white. All right, so this is almost the same thing over here. Incomplete dominance, same genotype of the parent. So we have a purebred red flower crossed with a completely white flower. So the white flower's got two white alleles, the red flower's got two red alleles. Now this time when you cross it with incomplete dominance, the red and the white will blend together to give you pink. So if you ever take an art class, if you mix red paint with white paint, you get pink. All right, so incomplete dominance, you don't get both red and white. They blend together to get pink. And then also we have multiple allelic traits. This is blood types. So there's only two alleles, a dominant and recessive, like big B, little b. But here we have a type A allele. We have a blood type B allele. Then we have a blood type where you have one of each. And we also have type O. So now we have three different alleles. O is recessive. A and B are both dominant. All right, so I'm going to go over all these in more detail. All right, so just a little review really quick. I'm going to try to talk as fast as I can. Remember, if I talk too fast, just rewind it and listen again. All right, so up until now, we've just done simple dominant recessive pattern. So we got two alleles. We got a dominant big B for brown eyes. We got a recessive little b for blue eyes. So you can see over here, both these people over here have a blue-eyed allele. But since brown is dominant, both these have brown eyes, just like if you have two brown-eyed alleles. So that is simple dominant recessive. So if you have one dominant allele, you're going to have that dominant trait. And the only way you can have the recessive trait is you got to have two copies of the recessive alleles. So the only way you can have blue eyes, you got to be little b, little b. All right, so that's simple dominant and recessive patterns. All right, a little page for your notes. All right, so far we've been talking mostly about single gene traits, and what those are, it's pretty self-explanatory. These are traits that are controlled by one gene on one chromosome. Remember, we have two of each chromosome, one from mom, one from dad, so there will be two alleles. And usually so a clear dominant recessive pattern. So these are things like dimples. Dimples is a single gene trait because there's only one gene for dimples. You either have dimples or you do not. It doesn't matter if you have two dimple alleles. It doesn't make your dimples even any more deeper. All you need is one dimple allele and you'll have dimples. But there's also something called polygenic traits. Now these are traits that are controlled by several different genes on several different chromosomes. And these polygenic traits, so now it's not like you have it or you don't. You have dimples or you don't. Brown eyes or blue eyes. Now there's a lot of different varieties. So you can see skin color is one variety or one example. So you can see you can have really dark skin. If you have a lot of dominant alleles, you'll have super dark skin. If you have a bunch of recessive alleles, you'll have super light skin. And look at everything in between. So these are traits it's a bunch of genes that combine together. So another one is hair color. If you have a lot of dominant alleles on the several different genes, you'll have really dark hair, like black hair. And if you have a lot of recessive alleles for these genes, then you'll have super light hair. So these are traits that it's a bunch of genes, a bunch of alleles that come together, and that's where you get a variety, a lot of different skin tones, a lot of different hair tones, human height. So not everybody's not just super tall, 7 foot tall or 3 foot tall. There's a bunch of different heights, 5'10", 5'11", 5'12". So these are all polygenic traits which are controlled by multiple genes on several different chromosomes. All right, so now the stuff we're really here to learn about. All right, so remember from the first slide, codominance, codominance. Are you going to get codominance and incomplete dominance confused? You will. You just got to practice it. So remember, codominance is when both alleles contribute equally. So they're both dominant. So remember, if we cross a red cow with two red alleles, with a white cow with two white alleles, both red and white are both dominant. So we end up with a cow that's what's called roan, and it's got red and white patches. And you can see down here, same thing with flowers. Some flowers show a codominant inheritance pattern. So if you cross a red flower with two red alleles with a white flower with two white alleles, you're going to get a flower with the genotype of big R, big W, and you're going to get flowers that have both white and red. All right, so that's codominance. All right, a couple practice problems. Yep, we have more Punnett squares, but they're pretty easy. All right, so cross a homozygous red flower. All right, so the red flower is going to have two red alleles, big R, big R. Crossing that with a purebred white, homozygous white, so it's going to have two white alleles, W, W. I'll put the red flower on top. It can give, they're both alleles are the same. It's given one of its R's or its other R's. Remember Mendel's principle of segregation, it's only given one R to its offspring, baby flowers. And the white one I'll put on the side so I can give its W or its other W. Since these are both W's, I can cross one out. Since these are both R's, I can cross one out. All the baby flowers are going to have this genotype, RW. So if you cross those two flowers, all the baby flowers are going to have the genotype RW, and all the flowers are going to be red and white because this is codominance. All right, this one we're going to do cattle, two roan cattle, red and white. So these have the genotype. This guy's got the genotype of RW because he's red and white, and this guy's also RW because he's red and white or roan. All right, so I'll put one of the RWs on top. So half of their babies are going to get the R allele, and the other half are going to get the W allele. Same thing with his parents, might be the dad. Half of them will get his R allele, and half of them will get his W allele, and let's see what happens. All right, so this one's going to be RR. So 1/4 of their baby little calves, their little cows, will have red because two red alleles. This one's going to be roan. It's going to get an R from one parent and a W from the parent on top. That one's going to be red and white. This one's also going to get an R from the top, a W from the left, and that one will also be roan or red and white. And then this one out of 4 on average of their babies will get two white alleles, and you'll end up with a white cow. So the genotypic ratio would be 1/4 of the time, big R, big R. 2/4 or half the time, big R, big W. And 1/4 or 25%, you get the genotype of WW. Phenotypic ratio, 25% or 1/4 will be red, 1/2 will be red and white or roan, and 1 out of 4 will be white. All right, so now the other type of inheritance pattern. So this is incomplete dominance. The Punnett squares are going to work exactly the same. Just remember, but this time it was just like last time. We had a red flower and we crossed it with a white flower. Same genotypes, two red alleles, two white alleles, and then the genotype of the offspring is the same too. You're gonna get a big R from this parent. You're gonna get a big W from the white flower. So the genotypes are going to be RW. But this time in codominance, remember it was red and white flowers. Well, this time the two traits blend together. Red blends with white and gives you pink. Another example would be like you cross a tall plant with a short plant, and you'll get a medium-sized plant. That would be another example of incomplete dominance. All right, so take this down in your notes, and you're just going to have to remember the difference between codominance, where you get patches of red and white or black and white, whatever colors, and incomplete dominance, the traits blend together. So if it was black and white, it would blend together to give you gray. Or if it was red and white, they blend together to give you pink. All right, so that's incomplete dominance. All right, now quickly do a couple practice problems with incomplete dominance. So cross a red flower with a white flower. All right, it's red, so it's going to have two red alleles. R, R. And we're crossing out with a white flower. It's going to have two white alleles, two W's. I'll put the red flower on top. So remember, this is exactly like the one I just did. RR, this one's WW. Since these are both W's, I can cross one out. Since these are both R's, I can cross one out. All the boxes will be the same. 4 out of 4 or 1 out of 1. It's 100%. All the offspring, the baby flowers, are going to have the genotype of RW. Now, if this was codominance, the flowers would be red and white. But since this is incomplete dominance, all the flowers will be pink. All right, so I'm going to do the one over here. This time I'm crossing a red flower with a white flower or a pink flower. All right, so this one's going to have the genotype of RR. It's got two red alleles. That's why its flowers, its petals are red. And this one's going to have a red allele and a white allele because there's no pink alleles. It's incomplete dominance. The red and white blend together to give you pink. I'll put the pink flower on top. Half of the flowers will give its red allele. Half the flowers will get its white allele. And this one's, they're both the same. Big R, big R. Since these are both big R's, I can cross one out because guess what? 1 out of 2 is the same as 2 out of 4. It's still 50%. All right, so this one's going to be RR. This flower is going to be red. genotype of big R, big R. And this flower will be pink, genotype of big R, big W. All right, so genotypic ratio, one half will have the genotype RR, one half will have the genotype RW. Phenotypic ratio, one half or 50% will be red, one half or 50% of the new flowers will be pink. All right, so that's incomplete dominance. All right, so now multiple allelic traits and specifically blood types. All right, so a lot of traits are controlled by only two alleles, dominant, recessive, big B, little b. But this time we're going to have three alleles. So there's three alleles for blood type. There's the type A allele, there's the blood type B allele, and then there's the recessive type O. So it's codominant because both type A and B are both dominant, and type O is recessive. So the only way you can have type O blood, and we usually use the little i's or the alleles for type O. So the only way you can have type O, you got to have two type O alleles. Sometimes they'll put it as an O for the allele, but usually we put it as little i's, the little i's so that it's recessive. All right, so this is the most important slide as far as blood types go. All right, so we got to know the genotype. So type A blood, there's two possible genotypes you can have. You can get a big IA, that's the A allele, and a big IA, that's another A allele. So you get one from mom, one from dad. If you get two type A alleles, obviously you're blood type A. Now, if you're AB, that means you get a blood type, an A allele from one parent, say mom, and a B allele from dad. That would give you blood type AB. Now, but there's two genotypes to have type A. Now, this person's got a type A allele from one parent and got the recessive type O from another parent. So since O is recessive, this person's still going to be blood type A. Type B, it's the same thing. You have two possible genotypes. You can be homozygous, get two blood type B alleles, big IB, big IB. Write these down. You're going to need to know these genotypes. And obviously, if you have two B alleles, you're going to have type B blood. But you could also be heterozygous or hybrid. You get a type B allele from one parent and the recessive type O, and you'll still have the blood type of B. And remember from the last slide, the only way you can have type O blood, this is the most common blood type, by the way, about almost 40% of people have type O. But you got to get two recessive O alleles. Remember, we show the O allele usually with a lowercase I. The I stands for isoagglutinogen. You won't need to know that. All right, but know the genotypes. This is type O. This is heterozygous type B, homozygous type B. And we're going to do a couple Punnett squares here in a second. Or I'm going to do this fast, but definitely get it in your notes because this will probably be a question at the end in our quiz time. All right, so blood type O, the most common, the recessive, is called the universal donor. So what you need to know is your red blood cells have like these little name tags, these proteins on the outside, and there's A protein and there's type B protein. So if you have type A blood, all your red blood cells have a little name tag that has the type A proteins on it. Same thing if you have type B, then your blood cells will have the type B ID card or proteins on your cells. So if you have type A and somebody donates type B blood to you, it's going to have the wrong name tag, and your body is going to fight those blood cells because it's going to know they don't belong there. Type O, on the other hand, has no name tags. There's no ID, there's no proteins on the outside of type O. So it's kind of like a generic blood cell that everybody can get. So if you're type A blood, you can get type O. If you're type B, type AB, obviously type O, everybody can get type O. It's the universal donor. Now, AB, it's kind of cool because it's the universal acceptor. Its red blood cells have both the A protein on the outside and the B. So these people can get type AB blood and the body won't fight it. You can get type A blood, can get type B blood, and obviously can get type O because everybody can get type O. All right, we're going to try a couple Punnett squares. All right, last slide. We're about 14 minutes, so I'm going to keep this under 20 just like I wanted to. All right, Punnett squares. Cross a heterozygous type A. Step one is always find the genotype of the parents. Heterozygous type A, heterozygous means different. So this person's going to have a type A allele, big IA. That's one allele. And he's heterozygous, so he's not going to have another one. That'd be homozygous. And he's going to have the recessive little I type O allele. We're going to cross that with a person that's type O. So this person's going to have two lowercase i's because those are the alleles for type O. I'll put the heterozygous type A on the top. So half of this person's kid's going to get their type A allele. The other half's going to get the type O allele. This person's type O, so they have the same alleles, two recessive O, little i's. These are both little i's, so I'm going to cross one out. All right, so this person right here is going to get the big I A type A allele from one parent, and the little I recessive allele right there. So that person is heterozygous type A. This person's going to get the O allele from one parent and the other recessive O allele from the other parent. And that person, half their kids would be type O. All right, so these people, none of their kids can be type B, none of them can be type AB. All of them are going to be either half of them will be type A, half of them will be type O. All right, let's try this one. There's a question like this on our final exam in this unit, so it's kind of close to this one. All right, so dad has type AB blood and mom has type O. The hospital mixes up some babies. So baby 1 has type AB blood, baby number 2 has type O, and baby number 3 has type A. Which baby belongs to these parents? All right, no problem. So step 1, we got to figure out the genotype of the parent. So dad is AB. All right, so I'm going to put his alleles on top. So half his kids will get his big IA, that's the A allele, or his B allele, big I, B. All right, the mom is type O, so she has two O alleles, little I, little I. All right, we got two little I's. I don't need to do it twice. I'm going to scratch this out. All right, so here we go. This kid right here is going to get the A allele from dad and the O allele from mom. That kid is type A. And this kid's going to get the type B allele from dad and the type O allele from mom. So even though dad was AB and mom is type O, none of their kids can be type AB or O. Half of them, 50% of them are going to be type A, heterozygous, big I, A, little I, and the other half are going to be type B blood. All right, so what we got here? Baby 1 has AB. Nope, not baby 1 because none of them have AB. Baby 2 has type O. Nope, it's not baby 2 because none of their kids have type O. And baby number 3 has type A blood, and right here, that is a possibility. So baby number 3 would be the baby of those two parents because that's the only possible blood type you can have. All right, I hope you enjoyed it. It's time for quiz time, so hopefully you took some notes, and I'll see you next time.